Hi, everyone. My name is Hila Chu. I'm the Director of Product Growth here at GitLab. Today, we have the group conversation call from Growth Team. We will talk about what Growth Team is working on and answer some questions from the broader team. I have a couple team members from Growth Group, product managers, engineers, UX, data join me today. So we can move on to questions now. The first question is from Jody. Jody, are you there? Do you want to voice your question? I think maybe he's not on the call. I can talk about his question on behalf of him. So Jody is a senior product marketing manager on the dev stage. He asked about, is there one single source of truth for product usage, ideally to the feature level? If so, where can it be found? Otherwise, are there plans for this to happen? So that's a great question that's related to analytics and product usage. The current state for that is it's not ideal, but we do have some events data available. As an example, I listed a spreadsheet that has all the usage pin data, which may provide some ideas for you to look through, Jody. Basically, you can look at what are the usage pin data available as of today from that spreadsheet. So the best approach for now is probably for you to check with each of the PM and data team on how to best define the feature usage and what data is available. I shared an example there that's a dashboard from security team. So basically they use this dashboard to understand and track the feature usage for secure features. So I think the best idea for now is for you to talk with the PM to understand what's available. In terms of plan, in order to make the data usage better, it requires really 3 teams collaboration. So each of the PM team will need to define what is feature usage and in some cases implement the event that is needed for tracking. Data analytics team need to work on the reporting and dashboarding. Growth team is specifically telemetry team. Sid, our telemetry PM, is here as well. His team is responsible more for general data source like framework, infrastructure, tools, and company-wide initiative. As an example, one of his Q1 OKR is to have small, like stage monthly active user dashboard ready. You can see more details there. Jerome, do you have anything to add?
My point to add was just that currently it's a little bit fuzzy, but what we're working towards is usage ping, and usage ping will have SMAU and AMAU, which will be standardized across .com and self-managed instances. So that will be a single source of truth, which we can compare across all of GitLab.
And Sid?
Yeah, and as a part of what Jerome was saying, we're enhancing usage ping to be more performant. So .com was timing out because of the large size of the instance. So making this performance improvement should also allow us to get additional metrics that weren't possible before because of the inability to run complex queries. And maybe we can run more now.
Yeah, and just to add, SMAU is stage monthly active user. So basically that is not at feature level, that's look at each stage. For example, create, secure, define, to kind of define what's the most important metric in terms of active user for that stage, just to make it clear. The next question come from Upper. Do you want to voice your question?
Yes, my question is, are there some things changes planned as growth team for financial year 21, which could have a high impact in IACV in the next 1 year?
Sam, do you want to talk about your answer? Are you here?
Yeah. So I put my answer in the comments here, but from a high level, the way that I think about it is that we don't have any real secret kind of golden levers that we can pull in the second half of the year if we do end up going public, but it's more about building out our experimentation framework as a team so that we're iterating at a really good pace and always making improvements towards IACV, and then ideally even having a larger impact in the second half of the year when we are a public company. But I do think there are some muscles that we can work on as a team in terms of, from our analytics standpoint, of making sure that we feel confident in the way that we're tracking our impact towards IACV and our important flows like the sign up flow and checkout flow, so that we know, if there are potential issues, so they don't impact us in the longer term and something that could hurt us as a publicly traded company.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I agree with Sam. In general, IACV is growth team's Northstar metric, meaning all our activities and projects are centered around this goal. In Q4, which just ended, we estimated our initiatives added around 260K IACV, and I listed some examples in the doc. In this quarter, in Q1, our goal is drive additional 570K IACV, and this including improvement and experiments around customer flow, such as registration, trial, renewal, true-up, expansion, etc. So this is the theme that will continue in entire fiscal year 21. Ideally, our goal is always work on the most impactful thing. It may not be always 100%, but like if we can achieve that, there's no such thing around like, do we need to think about how to position or place the project? We are always work on the most important thing at any given time. Next question is from Victor. Do you want to raise your question?
Sure. Actually, we'll discuss it in the notes, but I've seen on slide 7 that, and you mentioned it as well, that basically you have a Northstar metric, and that's how you try to operate the whole growth team. And we started to define a Northstar metric in the configure stage as well, and just would like to see if it's possible to get your inputs into that. That's it. And if you could speak a bit, perhaps that might be useful here, if you could speak a bit more about how you work with the Northstar metric in the growth team.
Yeah, I think I can definitely speak to that. I think for growth team, currently we use Northstar metric defined as IACV, which is company's Northstar metric, basically, incremental annual contract value. And the reason why we chose that is typically when you think of Northstar metric, it's really about what is the most important metric for this entire company at this moment. So it's not necessarily forever IACV is the perfect Northstar, but at this moment, it's the most important thing for us to focus on. And there are a couple of reasons. First, as a 2B company, we care about customer contract value. We care about revenue. So IACV speaks to that directly. Second of all, IACV really emphasizes not only revenue, but the growth of revenue. For us as a kind of high growth startup, we shouldn't only try to maximize revenue because it's recurring. We got this and the same amount will come next year. We really want to continuously increase that. So IACV really emphasizes that. And also the other reason for growth team to focus on that is it's something that can be easily broken down between teams. Growth team, we have acquisition team, conversion team, expansion team, retention team. Each of the team is really managing a part that contribute to the IACV. For example, conversion team, a lot of effort Sam is working on is to convert customers who are in trial to a paid customer. And we can directly tie that back to the company IACV goal. Similar thing apply to expansion. If we are able to drive customers to buy more seats, that can directly add to IACV. So the big North Star can be broken down into smaller metrics for each of the team. Those are the couple reasons we chose this goal. And I'm happy to kind of talk with you and your team to understand what is your North Star and how we can help, or we can basically learn more about the stage you work on.
Thank you. Thanks for the detailed answer.
I think the next question is addressed to Sam. So Jaime, do you want to talk about your question?
Yes, thank you. I just have a question about, I would like to dig into number slide 13 and fix the way trials sync with SFDC so they no longer incorrectly change a lead status. If there's a link to that, I'd love to take a look.
Yeah, I can add a link to that right now. Just take me a second to pull up the issue, but essentially what was happening was when a trial registered for the customers app, it changed their status in Salesforce, and we resolved that. But I'll add a link in a moment here.
Gotcha, cool. Yeah, we're gonna probably take a look at the architecture between the portal and Marketo and Salesforce. So this is interesting.
Yeah, I'll connect with you on that. I'll set up some time for us to sync because I've had some other questions recently that have come up that where it's just a little bit of a black box for me in terms of how the infrastructure works today and in terms of what syncs with what. So I'd love for us just to connect on that moving forward.
Cool. So the next question is Jaime as well. Do you want to voice it?
Yeah. So now that there's two ways to purchase online, both through the product and through the portal, how do these teams that are working on these different ways keep the data flowing in the same way? And is there like a mechanism within product to kind of compare how that data is going into the enterprise ecosystem?
Jensen, do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. So I took a first stab at this, but we basically this new sign-up flow that you're referring to still uses all of the same sort of data requirements as the customer's app. It's just built on an API to the customer's app, but we're syncing data really in the same way. So that's the first thing. But you know, as we keep adding, I think what we should do is be much more explicit to test to make sure that all of your important data is making it into Salesforce and Zora and all of those enterprise apps you want to keep in sync. And I just think that we should, I'll start an issue to discuss, because one thing we should think about is when that happens, it should likely be once we determine that this new flow is better, right? To just kind of reduce the scope of a test initially. And then once we determine that's better, we can make sure all that data is flowing properly.
Yeah, I'm interested in what's a different, because I know that there's some hidden fields for like marketing or sales purposes, like was like the like initial source, I don't know what we call it, but is that different for the product portal versus the customer portal? And some of those like hidden fields for tracking purposes and source purposes, like have we given them different values? Should we?
Got it. I'm not entirely sure what fields you're referring to, so maybe we could just sync up offline.
Cool.
Cool. The next question is from Jaime as well. Do you want to voice your question?
Yes. On slide 16, what does bringing our billing and licensing platforms to industry standard at a pace that can keep up with the growth of the organization? What does that mean? What's industry standard for these platforms?
Mike, is that something you can talk about?
Sure, I can jump in here. I didn't actually write that down, but I can take my crack at it, the interpretation of it for you, Jamie. I think that, as we look at the way that purchasing and renewals and upgrades and all of these transactions are done with GitLab, there's a lot of room for opportunity and for improvement, as you likely know. Starting with what we're doing for the purchase process, making it easier to initially get in, but things like upgrading your plan, adding seats, those are all, I would say, more difficult than they should be right now for customers and for folks internally that have to deal with it. So that's my interpretation, is really a lot of the billing processes and things that we deal with and customers deal with today should be more automated than they are. They should be easier for customers to get into and self-serve. There's a lot of manual intervention required for things like true ups and renewals, and even just upgrading your plan, that really are harder than they should be for our customers and for us internally. And if we want to continue to grow and have customers expand and upgrade, we've got to make those experiences as easy and smooth as possible, so that more folks can do it successfully, and there's less of an impact on our support and sales teams to support them.
Gotcha. So like more specifically, it's about like the UI and the like user flow than maybe like the tools that we're using, like the technology.
I think the essence of it is like the end goal is to make those flows easy, automated, etc. There may be tools pieces that we have to address to get there. But I don't think this is prescribing like there's some system issue. It's just we need to make all these flows better and easier for everybody.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah.
The next question is from Brandon. Brandon, do you want to voice your question?
Check. There we go. Double mute button. No, I mean, really excited what y'all are doing. I guess I was kind of wondering, I know in the past, when we talk about kind of users coming to the platform, we've done quite a bit of work around like Kubernetes with GKE and EKS. And I'm wondering if this is something, and if so, how the growth team interacts with that kind of onboard flow. And I'm curious about it because we found a lot of times customers are coming with a platform in mind. And if that's something we can meet them at or represent GitLab as the tool to put stuff in a Lambda or something, well, being specific, that actually would be a good use case, could be maybe perhaps really helpful in accelerating that usage. So I'd be curious on that. The second question, part of the question you can answer is, if we are we currently doing anything to highlight in a large organization where others are using GitLab? So if we knew, for example, that they're deploying into AWS Lambda, then a new user might be like, it's great, I can talk to this team over here that's already done it, versus each time reinventing it, particularly as we think about customers going like monorepo and large orgs. That's a long question, so I'll let it go from there.
All right, so I'll take the first one. I think that the question really about would the growth team lead this effort to make it easier to start using pre-built platforms to deploy GitLab? I think in short, the answer is yes, but I'm going to caveat that with only if we believe that change will have a material impact on IACV, right? Our entire goal would be, if we believe, and in this case that you and I have talked about this, so we do believe here, but that deploying to some of these infrastructures for the user will make it easier for them to get started, will make GitLab stickier. If we believe that to be true, then that is a great knob to toggle to increase IACV. And in this case, we would likely lead the charge on at least creating an experiment here to see if that is true. So
okay.
Yeah, I'll pause so that I can answer your second question, but if you have any follow-ups on the first one.
No, that's great. And hopefully the second's kind of clear. I think the idea here would be, in particular, SMAO, is if we can highlight how someone's using GitLab in the deploy stage to choose a service, then we could maybe go upstream to, if you can surface that when someone in the new group is just starting, now we're able to really connect, instead of just being, I'll do source code, I'll do CI. Now literally you're doing end to end. I don't know if we've experimented or whether those matter, but was curious if y'all had thought about that.
We have, I mean, this is a little bit more sort of direct than what I've heard. I mean, it's definitely what we would be looking at is decreasing the overall cost of managing your GitLab instance, because there is pain involved in users, let's say, reinventing the wheel, like you say, every time that they need to come up with how to deploy to AWS or how to deploy to their VPC or whatever it might be. There's pain involved in that. And our job on the growth team would be to reduce, that pain and reduce their overall cost of managing their GitLab instance, so that we are obviously the go-to choice, right? Like we want to be the easiest one to manage for them. And that would increase, expansion and usage and all of that stuff. So again, that's like, we can sort of tie those two things together, but yeah, that's definitely something we'd be looking at.
Thank you so much. Mac, I think you're up.
So yeah, Mac, do you want to talk about your question?
Hey, thank you. So congrats on the recent accomplishments. From a quality standpoint, I want to get closer and understand per team allocation right now, how much work is reactive versus proactive? Where are we fixing the current checkout flow, or are we improving it? Is it 50-50? What's the current health right now from a quality standpoint?
Oh yeah, I think I'll have Mike talk more on the details. Basically, like more generally, we always use a framework called ICE to prioritize. So basically, it's a balance between how impactful this project will be. For us, it is primarily IACV. So whether it's fixing an existing flow or improving or do something brand new, we always prioritize and compare them against the same set of framework. Mike, do you want to talk more around fulfillment specifically?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So I'd say so far it's actually been pretty balanced, Mac. I think when we first came on board, there were a number of issues that were known that we kind of uncovered and identified that have had a big impact. Things like renewing accounts at the right amount of seats for .com, some of the licensing issues that we've recently addressed. So I think it's been pretty balanced in terms of addressing existing known issues, but also working for future improvements, things like the pajamas UI efforts in the portal, making that process easier, adding those enhancements as we go, the API upgrades as well. So I think it's actually worked out pretty balanced. I think what we'll see over time is that we'll address these known issues, and the fulfillment team's been doing a great job there tackling those. And a lot, I think, will shift more into new things, enhancements, as we kind of shore up the foundation of what we have, and then we can continue to enhance it going forward.
Great, thanks for the insights.
Cool. Jaime, do you want to?
Yeah. I just want to say thanks to all the teams working on the portal and the related apps. I know it's hard work and it's challenging, and I appreciate it.
That's so nice of you. Thank you so much. I think that's the last of our questions. It's a nice way to end our group conversation. I think last, I want to talk about basically growth team is a relatively new team. And we really appreciate a lot of you sending us ideas and thoughts and questions. Even though sometimes our answer is we will look at the IACV impact, we will evaluate whether we can work on that now or later. But really, growth team is here to collaborate with a lot of you to find the best opportunity to improve IACV, to grow our company. So please continue to send us ideas, and we really welcome that. And the last thing, I also want to announce that Amanda Ruda recently joined growth team as our product manager for fulfillment, and we're really excited to have her, and I think she's on the call as well. So with that, I will end today's group conversation. Look forward to the next one.